Welcome to the Digital Marketing Mentor. I'm your host, Danny Gavin, and together with industry leaders and marketing experts, we'll explore the meeting point of mentorship and marketing. We'll discover how these connections have affected careers, marketing strategies, and lives. Now get ready to get human. Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Gavin, founder of Optage, marketing professor, and the host of the Digital Marketing Mentor. Really excited for our guest today, Fay Friedman, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at AJH Co., a commercial real estate firm. Her journey started as a content writer at an SEO agency, took her through consumer psychology and learning what makes a website perform, with 9 years in the e-commerce industry, and now taking on the beast that is the commercial real estate marketing at AJH Co. Fay describes herself as being on a personal mission to shake up owners and operators, stopping them from pouring money down the property listings drain. Finally, although SEO was more of a focus in the early part of her career, she still shares a lot on the topic and provides advice to those who seek her out. Hey, Fay, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is not our first conversation, but every time that I do sit down with you is super enlightening. The conversations that we have had and I've shared with others, people are so excited and consider you as a mentor, right?
I hope so. Yeah, it's always fun to speak to like-minded, intelligent people.
I can agree on that. Let's talk about your educational and work background. How did you get here today?
Unlike many others, I'm not college educated. I started out as a copywriter for an SEO agency. This was way back when the internet was Wild West and a lot of things passed that wouldn't work today. I started out doing copywriting. I knew nothing about SEO. And in a way, it was the best way for me to be exposed to the industry because I saw a lot of black hat and gray techniques that I did them. And then I kind of heard from clients or competitors who it came back to bite them. There were some dicey situations, but it was the best teacher and the best learning experience for me. So after that initial interesting experience at an agency doing copywriting, I really was intrigued by the entire SEO field. And I spent around a year on my own, just playing around, watching YouTube videos, reading Search Engine Roundtable, and every single blog I could find, playing with a family member's website. And that was really how I cut my teeth on, SEO. And I feel like in a way that was the best teacher. So there was definitely always, there's like this imposter syndrome. There's always going to be a part of me that feels like I'm missing something because I didn't go to college. I discussed this in the past with a colleague, and he's adamant that when we're not college educated, in a way, there are things that we know better because we had to learn by making mistakes. Obviously, I really value university education. It was an interesting way to get into the industry. And for me, it's worked. So as you mentioned, I spent 9 years in e-commerce and I'm always learning. There was never a day that I didn't learn something new, which is great. At this point, I'm over to the real estate side, which is a completely different beast. And through my work in SEO, I was really exposed to all different touch points in marketing. So everything from print ads, and as I said, my background is a copywriter, to email marketing and the technical specifics of building a website. All of it I ended up touching, and that's really what helped shape my career.
That's amazing. And it makes so much sense why you are someone that people look up to, because not everyone goes to college, but sometimes you think go to college, that's how it can become a CMO, right? A chief marketing officer. But clearly that's not the path that you have to take. And there are a lot of ways to get, to the same destination. But I think that the bottom line is hard work. And it sounds like you put in the time and the effort to get where you are. So you clearly have both a gift and passion for the written word. Have you always loved writing? Or was there a specific instance that made you go, I love doing this?
Absolutely. I was editor-in-chief of my high school yearbook. This was inborn. I was always a writer. And, there's a part of me that sometimes feels like I'm not writing enough anymore in my current role. I want to get back to the basics of writing that I love. But yeah, I feel like that's really foundational to work today as an SEO or really all marketing. People are appreciating more than ever how it starts with the written word.
Yeah, I know we're talking about not college, but I always tell people that if you are going to go to college and you like SEO, why not get a degree in English? Because if you're a very strong writer, it helps tremendously when it comes to the world of SEO.
Yes.
So interestingly enough, you also have training as an EMT.
Yeah.
What steered you away from a career in healthcare and into a career more in digital marketing, writing?
I really did the EMT course because my husband was doing it and he wanted me to do it with him. And it was a great experience. And I think it was a really eye-opening way to teach me a little bit about grit and getting things done. So I never really would have done the healthcare side. I learned some great skills. It was more the soft skills that I did it kind of after hours in between my job. And it was a phenomenal program. One of our instructors was actually an Army sergeant at the U.S. Army. And he was so inspiring in his determination and how, like, he told us stories about things he saw on the battlefield that was just unbelievable. And it was my first year working as a copywriter. And the soft skills, I think it really helped me, like, show me that nothing's impossible. You just have to work hard enough and you can get it done.
It's awesome. As people know, I run a course and sometimes say, like, why do I take a course? Whether it could be an EMT course, a digital marketing course. In the end, I'm not going to go into that field. But what it shows you is no matter what educational opportunity that you go into, there's something to gain from. And you take it as a part of your psyche, and then you can move forward and you don't realize how much better you are after you get out.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the practical level, it's definitely been a help for me with my kids. I have a few boys, very active ones. Yeah, there definitely is that grit. I remember this 13 years later with this instructor. His name was Steve. It stayed with me. And it was a very interesting thing to do it right when I was starting my career.
All right, let's jump into mentorship. So Fay, how would you define a mentor?
It doesn't have to be someone you speak to every day or you see every day, but it's really somebody who you can draw inspiration from and look for, like, clear-headed guidance. That when you're not sure about something, they'll be just an objective, clear perspective for you.
Do you feel like there's any traits that you want to avoid in a mentor? Like people maybe that you wanted to be your mentor, but you realized, this is not a good fit?
I think my personality is that I don't go so much for fluff. So some of them more like traditional, inspirational coaches might be amazing, but wouldn't be a great fit for my personality. I think I really go more for people who are straight to the point and, cut to the chase.
So let's talk about some of the most influential mentors over your life. I know you've mentioned in the past Barry Schwartz, your current COO. Let's drill down into those relationships.
As I mentioned, some of these are relationships that are not necessarily that close, but that they've had an impact on me in some way. Barry Schwartz is somebody that, as I mentioned, I started SEO reading Search Engine Roundtable, not understanding anything. Like, I was reading Greek. I did not know what I was reading, but it was so inspiring for me that as I learned more, I really understood what he's saying. That's a blog, his blog. He's been writing it for I don't even know how many years, but I still start almost every day reading Search Engine Roundtable because it's just quick bites with all the most important things I need to know. I did have the opportunity during COVID to do a podcast with him, and that was awesome. In real life, he is so kind, so open and willing to help. He's just like humble, easy to reach. If you have a question, he answers. And I love how, as I mentioned, for my personality, it works because his blog is exactly what I need, especially at this point in my career. I don't have time to read long white papers and studies. And he's just quick bites of what's important. As I said, he's not the kind of person I speak to much at all. But putting out his content and interacting with him on LinkedIn, it's just been a game changer for me that, like, there's somebody that I really trust what he writes.
I know we're going to talk about like your top experiences later, but it must be pretty cool. Like the guy who you've been reading to actually go and meet in person and go and do a podcast.
Cool. My current COO, it's interesting because he's taught me a lot on the soft skill side, leadership and communication and dealing with members of my team, because you could say that in many ways his personality is very different from mine, but he just has a way of quietly leading. He's not the loudest guy in the room. He proves himself to his team with like a quiet authority. He knows how to be firm when he needs to, and he knows his opinion. And it's really opened my eyes into different ways that you can lead. That it's not always about talking the most and holding the big meetings, but it's about really understanding your team and what they need at that given moment.
So true and so powerful. I did a personality test recently. I've done them with my company, with my agency, but also I did one at Deloitte Green Lab. And it's just interesting how, sometimes people think the stereotypical CEO or COO has to be like that certain personality, and that's the only way that you're going to be successful. Like the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, cutthroat. But it's wonderful when you find these people in organizations like your COO who can lead and be powerful, but doesn't necessarily have to have that way of being in your face, but more quiet leader and insert his influence that way.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've really come to respect and appreciate and try to incorporate in the way I, lead my team.
Were there any mentors who helped you take the leap out of e-commerce SEO and kind of move into a different arena?
Not really. That was kind of a decision that just happened to me. It was like COVID. There were things going on personally in my life where I just felt like, funny joke, I wanted to cut down my hours. So I wanted to take a step back a little bit, and I figured, something like real estate where it's more lead gen and not e-commerce probably won't be as intense. Well, joke's on me. I ended up moving up in the department, and I'm now the CMO, and I'm very grateful. Love my job every single day. It kind of just happened to me right before COVID, and it was the best thing. I've really found my niche.
You do some guest lecturing, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit more, but did your mentors help instill that drive to want to share your gifts and knowledge with others? Or were there certain individuals who wow, they do, learn from them?
There definitely have been people who have told me many times, you should teach, you should share, and that's something I still want to pursue more. I feel like I don't do enough of it, but I love teaching. I actually started out way back before any of this. I did teach for 2 years, elementary students, but I loved it. I love teaching. It's something that I enjoy doing. I feel like it's a natural extension. So if you're good at something, you want to share it with others.
Yeah, we can share that point because I taught second grade kids for about 6 months early on.
Wow. No, I taught sixth grade.
Okay.
It's different.
Totally. So now let's talk about mentoring others. So currently you lead a team of 6. Tell me about how you mentor your teammates and the people who work with you.
I think that I really try to take a step back. And this is something that I've learned from my years working under various other managers and seeing the ways that they lead is I really try to give people their space to figure out problems on their own and find the resolution. So I'll try to give them the tools they need and the resources, and I'll discuss it with them and talk it through. But at the end of the day, I try not to give them the answer. I really like when I can point them in the right direction, that they can come to a conclusion on their own, because it's so much more rewarding. And then you're more involved in seeing the project to the finish line because you made this decision. You really are doing it.
Getting back to the guest lecturing at courses and other sort of speaking opportunities that you have, you've mentioned that you really like how people reach out to you afterwards and create that relationship. If you can share more about that.
Absolutely. So it's the kind of thing that I think stands out to me is that I taught for many years an online course. I did a few guest lectures that I know are shown every single year in the same course. This is in audio, yours, some others. And usually once a year, there's one student or 2 students who will reach out and follow up with questions. And those are always the ones who just stand out. I'm always so impressed that they're really internalizing the work and they have questions. They want to reach out to someone. That's, to me, really impressive.
I've hired people based off of just coming and asking me a question. We've spoken about this before on the podcast, but I think in society today, the concept of asking questions, a lot of people think that means, oh, you don't understand or you're weak. But really, what we have to start shifting to is that questions are a beautiful thing and we should ask more of them. And it actually is a sign of strength.
And I think it's the only way to learn.
Let's jump into your area of expertise. As the CMO of AGH Co., you've cracked the code of real estate marketing, which can be a beast. Was there a lot of trial and error, or did you know going in where you needed to start and build from?
I was thrown in the deep end. I knew nothing. As I mentioned, when I joined AGH, there was no real digital marketing going on. It was, the marketing was done the same way every other real estate firm does their marketing. And I was here to set up and first start like SEO, Google Ads a little bit, like start venturing into it. I was very quickly moved into the CMO role and I really had no idea what I was doing. So they told me there's like a concept in real estate, ILS management. ILS is the internet listing services. So like apartments.com and Zillow and all these listing websites, that's the conventional way that real estate firms get renters. They pay them monthly packages, varying different structures. And then that's it. It's out of your hands. There's no real control over your listing. Saying you could add pictures and whatever, but you have no control over where it's showing, who it's showing to, or targeting or anything like that. And it shocked me that they're spending thousands of dollars a month and there's no way to target. And also the reporting is very arbitrary. Any ILS could say this lead came from us. You don't know if it's first touch, last touch. You don't know what the attribution model is. When I came in and I was told, okay, so we're going to hire someone for ILS management, I was like, whoa, what's this ILS management? It sounds scary. Now when I looked into it, I'm like, it's nothing. It's just meeting with the reps, figuring out the packages, touching base twice a year. Like it's really not much. So that was like the kind of thing that I learned that is like big in the real estate world for, you have these CEOs who might have multi-million-dollar portfolios. They don't know anything about the marketing side really. All they know is we need someone to manage our ILSs. When in reality, it's so minor. There's obviously many other aspects of marketing real estate where you have the print brochures and the floor plans and all the other parts of it. And then I opened a whole new world of SEO and Google Ads and social ads and retargeting and all these other things we could do. And then we started making much smarter decisions and working on better reporting and all that kind of thing. But yeah, when I first started, I was clueless and I was kind of really trying to learn. So when I was told things like, oh, you need an ILS manager, I was like, okay, before we hire someone, let me just see what this is. But like, yeah, sure, fine, we need it. Let's do it. Until I realized we don't really need it. So slowly over time, I've been whittling down some of the software that like was grandfathered in, that people signed up for and they've been using for years. And slowly I'm going through everything and like, we don't need this. We don't use this. And signing up for new things that are smarter and work better. But I was definitely thrown into the deep end. It's been a really fun, wild ride. It's been so gratifying because unlike e-commerce, which is real grind. Sometimes it's very competitive and, you're fighting with big box retailers. Here, if you're doing things right, you'll see results.
And I love how you question the status quo. Sometimes, especially when you're new and you come into a company, you're just like listening to everyone and following what they say. I'm sure like that attribute that you have of questioning pushed you to where you are today.
I think so. I definitely think that in the beginning, people were probably taken aback. Like, no, this is the way we do it. And my goal was to just learn and not make any decisions until I understood it. So there definitely were some things that, for example, the marketing department had been doing before I joined that I was like, this is a waste of time. The property managers know this information better than us. They should be doing this. Like, we could be doing things that are so much more impactful. Why are we ordering the chocolates for Valentine's Day? Sometimes it's important. Sometimes, yeah, you're organizing resident events and that's an important part of the job too. But it was more about, as you mentioned, like learning and then taking a step back and saying, no, we're going to question the status quo, as you said, and this doesn't make sense. We can be doing a lot more effective things with our time to drive leads and actual leases.
So choosing the right channels for your target niche is very important. And as you've just spoken about with ILS and property listings, often there's a lot of wasted money. What channels have you found the most success with when it comes to real estate?
It's really regional. For me, it's really based on the area that the property is located in and the demographic that we're trying to target. I'm not saying I completely got rid of ILSs. We still use them because they still dominate Google, absolutely. And they're not going anywhere. They do dominate Google, but there are ways to target smarter. So I it's a work in progress, but my goal is always to make smart decisions and to figure out for each property and each region which ILS is performing the best. And performing the best doesn't mean sending the most leads, it's sending the most quality leads that are resulting in application approvals and leases. So that's something that we actually recently discussed on a chat that I'm part of for like real estate marketers. Somebody said, "Oh, does anybody know about this ILS?" And I said, "Yes, don't do it." And they're like, "Why? They send so many leads." And I was like, "Yeah, go look at your numbers and see how many of those leads resulted in leases. They're low quality. They're not good leads." So I'm not going to say that across the board. But as I mentioned, it's regional. There's no blanket statement. For each property, I'm going to have to figure out which ILS is sending the most quality leads. And I've been doing a lot of work to lower our spend and put more money into Google ads, Bing ads, social ads, SEO. And I prefer all of these channels a lot more because we have full control and we have full targeting. And we could turn it on, turn it off, raise budget, lower budget, play with bidding strategies. You know all this stuff, but we can make smart decisions and we're not tied into a 6-month package that's it. You're stuck. So, again, I'm not getting rid of ILSs. They're here to stay, but we can make a lot smarter decisions.
Yeah, for those who follow Fay, they will know that she really hates 6-month, tied down contracts or 12-month
12
contracts.
months, 24 months. It's like the leasing cycle is really seasonal. So why this really bothers me because why would anyone sign up for a 12 or 24 month package when half the year you don't need those leads?
Yeah, it sounds like those companies just want to make a lot of money during that time while you don't make any. All right. So how can businesses figure out which channels are best? Is it trial and error, or is there a best way to conduct market research before going all in or partially into a channel?
Part of it is how are you starting? Are you acquiring a new property? Is it a new build that you are doing a lease up? So that's really part of it. So let's say for us, we're usually going to work on a new property that was acquired. I'll look at the spend that the previous company was doing. I'll usually lower it significantly at the beginning. And I will explain to everybody from the start that yes, there's a transition period where we're going to be getting fewer leads. But the same way when you take over, you're expecting some time with, there might be staff turnover and there might be some work that has to be done in the building. You have to give me a little bit of time to learn how to market this building. Initially, I almost never sign up for the same packages that they were on previously. Usually, the very big companies are wasting a lot of ad spend on ILSs. So I'll usually start with like one tier lower than they were doing and do very aggressive reporting. Now, the reporting is the key. You have to really work on getting better data to figure out where your good leads are coming from. And that's something we're always working on. I don't have it worked out. It's always a work in progress and we can always get better. That's usually what I start with. I'll start with one package lower for a short-term package, and they'll always tell me I'm paying more per month than a short-term package. I don't care. It's an experimental phase. And I'll start with a very low budget campaign of Google ads, of Bing ads, and slowly see which channel is bringing in the most and tweak it until I find a good equilibrium. Now, we're always reevaluating during the winter, which is slower leasing season. We definitely raise ad spend. Now, springtime is here. We're lowering ad spend. So that's kind of a balance that we're always playing with.
Yeah, I love how you totally integrate the concept of A/B testing and trial and error and moving things up and down. All the traits and all the things that a good marketer needs to do, which is not a surprise, but it's just it's good to call it out. So how do you craft your ability to tell stories to the channel and audience? How do you meet them at their pain points?
Again, it goes to the specific property and their demographic and who they're targeting. But one of the things I like is to focus on preferred employers and to focus on somebody who might be taking a new job and is looking for housing and thinking, this is hard for them to make this transition. So what are the pain points that we can address? Could we make their move-in process smoother and easier? Can we offer them a discount off the beginning of their lease when costs are usually high because they just moved or whatever it is? So we're not always going to be offering concessions, but based on the demographic, I'll try to meet them. So some properties will have a larger percentage of families with children. So then our ads will reflect that, where I'm trying to show how the property is very family friendly and has a playground. Some have a lot of pets. So I'm going to showcase dog parks. So I really try to do a lot of analysis on the demographics of the property. Or sometimes we're trying to change the demographics. Sometimes we have a property where we want to raise rents and we want to bring in a new demographic. So I'm going to change our ads and say, hey, we recently renovated the lobby and looks like a 5-star hotel, and try to use that to entice a higher income demographic.
So along those lines, with so much competition in the commercial real estate world and competition in these marketing channels, how do you stand out?
It's tough, but I believe it really comes down to the market research and how good you are at understanding your consumer. The way the traditional ILSs work is everybody throws up their listing, tries to make their pictures look as pretty as possible, and if it's not working, offer a special lower rent. Whereas I try to be smarter in trying to, as we said, understand the people who are applying and make the process better for them. Let's say, if this is a demographic where a lot of people are working, we should open the leasing office on weekends for tours. Try to do things differently that will appeal to them more than just price. Another thing is that we're in the process of slowly redoing all of our property websites. And as you mentioned, A/B testing, that's a huge part of it is the user experience. And we have Hotjar set up to watch heat maps and watch consumer behavior on the websites. And that's a key part of it. I recently saw a LinkedIn post from, I believe it was Brady Newman, somebody who's like really smart in the real estate marketing space. And he was talking about how on e-commerce, you want to buy your website and you buy the dress. And in real estate, it's like, I want to buy a dress. Okay, fill out this application, pay us a deposit. We'll see if we can give you the dress. We have to think about it. Okay, come back in. Let's see if the dress fits you. Oh, sorry, the dress is not available. We can give you a different dress. And that was such a great comparison to how real estate is really behind in the e-commerce world, which I'm used to. So that's really something we're trying very hard to do, is to bring real estate closer, to make the process smoother, more seamless, more user-friendly.
And that fits so well with my next question as we move more to like SEO. When it comes to the transition from e-commerce to commercial real estate, was your approach to SEO the same, or did you have to rethink it from the start?
I did have to rethink it. It was refreshingly easier, but in some ways harder, because as I mentioned, the ILSs are always going to have the top spots. Apartments.com, Zillow, Rent.com, they're always going to have the top spots in Google for the high competitive terms. But there's so much room with the more granular long tail keywords and the ways that you're targeting a specific demographic. And in a way, those are the higher converting terms, because they're lower down in the funnel. So I feel like that's my sweet spot. I did have to rethink things a lot, but it's a lot more gratifying. It's a lot, the success is quicker once you figure something out. I'm not competing with ILSs. That's it. I'm not competing with them. I'm just trying to find ways to work smarter, not harder.
And how did that sit with the company? Because sometimes like the CEOs are like, I want to be number one for New Jersey real estate. And if I'm not, then you're not doing a good job. Obviously, that's impossible. It's really hard. And you're using the right strategy, the long tail strategy, a lot more strategic. Did you have to sell that? Or was it more like Fays the expert, we're going to do what she says?
Yeah. So I'm really lucky to work in a company that is completely supportive. The CEO and the COO are always telling me, we don't know this industry. We don't know this world. Like when I first joined, I used to send them these detailed reports and spreadsheets, and they would say, Faye, we don't know what we're looking at. You just do your job, and that's it. So I'm really lucky. They're incredibly supportive. Their attitude is, you're the expert. Tell us what we need to do. That's it. And if there's a problem, we'll tell it to you, and then you find the solution. We're not getting them out. Like it's fine. It's all yours. That's something that was rare when I first joined this industry. As I mentioned, it was in February of 2020, like right before COVID hit, and nobody had like an in-house marketing team. And they were way ahead of their times and that they brought me in and they really wanted to embrace it. Now, the real estate industry is definitely going through a very difficult time with leasing and occupancy. And more companies are realizing the need, but they're like 3 years behind us. So now I'm hearing a lot from other multifamily firms that are looking to bring in in-house teams and are looking to change things up, but they're trying to play catch up. So I was very lucky that I found this company and they were really ahead of their times. But yeah, their attitude in general is just, you do what you need to do. And sometimes, like I remember a year ago or so, I was speaking to another multifamily company that was very large. And they said, you have a team of 6 people. Like they looked at me like, okay, your CEO is crazy. Who needs to spend so much money? What do they do all day? And I tried to explain to him, well, I can break down each member of my team and what they do. And he was like, no, this is crazy. We do it for much cheaper. Well, don't worry. Now they're looking to hire someone in-house.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it really seems like a match made in heaven, like such a great company with proper leadership. And then you've got yourself who so insightful, able to, you self-developed, created who you are and what you do. And like, it's like a match made in heaven. It's really cool. I'm excited both for you and the company as a whole. It's really great. So what trends do you see coming along and changing in SEO? Obviously, the biggest thing around now is like AI and ChatGPT. Would love to know your opinion on the matter.
I think that there are a lot of SEOs that are like, no ChatGPT, don't ever use it. We use it. We embrace it. And there's actually a member of my team who started using it right away. And I love the initiative. Like before I even started using it, she came to me like, hey, I did some really cool stuff with ChatGPT. Can I use it? I'm like, sure, this is awesome. So I love when they take initiative like that, and it was great. And we're using it. We've integrated it into our processes. I think that in general, it's not going anywhere. It's only getting smarter. And the SEOs and the content marketers and the people who are going to survive are the ones who are integrating AI and ChatGPT into their work and coming up with smarter decisions because of it. Like if you try to fight it, I think if you say like, don't use it, it's the devil, it's everybody else is using it. So I would say rather, let's embrace it and figure out ways to use it and make us smarter and quicker and better. I'm not going to say we definitely have some content that we write completely from scratch. And there's a lot of content that we say, throw it into ChatGPT, we edit it, we fix it, and it's good. Google says that they don't like ChatGPT content. I want to see how they're checking it. I don't know.
That's really interesting. But I agree, you have to find a way to integrate it because the people who aren't doing that are going to be left behind. I don't know if you can answer this question, but is the company using ChatGPT for like listings and coming up with like content to describe a property? Not really. We're the only department within the company, obviously, that uses it. And we still have a very hands-on approach because I have, an in-house team. There's enough people that we have the manpower. So yes, we'll use ChatGPT to save time there's work that we used to outsource to freelancers. And now we use ChatGPT for, but we do the same thing that we would have done with a freelancer. So that's where I'm like, it's the same thing. We would have sent it to a freelancer and then edited it, fixed it up. So now we'll do the same thing. We'll give it to ChatGPT and then we'll edit it and fix it up. But the core work we're still doing ourselves. And I think it's the creativity and the understanding of your consumer and your demographics. That's not changing. Like we have to have the right mindset and then know how to use ChatGPT to further our goals. So in addition to Search Engine Roundtable, how do you currently stay up to date with SEO? And are there any other resources that you recommend? Yeah, so I love Google's documentation. I feel like you're reading from the horse's mouth. Martin Split is awesome. Danny Sullivan, these guys, John Mueller, they're so helpful and they give us so much good information. And that sometimes I feel like when we're looking for other things, it's like they already answered you. So why are we looking for more answers? And I'm guilty of doing it myself. Like, I don't like that answer. Let me find another one. But I think Google's documentation is really great. I did sign up for Christina Azarenko's technical SEO course because I felt like that was something that I was lacking. I wanted to brush up on my technical skills. I can't say I have time to do many courses. I don't go to conferences, and that's something I would like to go to more. But in general, I try to read Search Engine Land and read some of the blogs, and I try to pinpoint the skills that I think I'm missing
and brush up on those as they come about. So like, for example, AI and ChatGPT, there's a member of my team who's really doing a great job with it, and she's teaching me. And for me, that's the best.
It's hard to be an expert in everything, but if you have a team, you can do a great job of spreading out the responsibilities and what you need to do. Fay, you are successful, thank God. What are your keys to success and what can people take away? What are the 3 keys to success?
I think it draws a lot on my background and how I got to where I am. I'm very self-motivated, and I think that's a trait that you have to have if you're doing SEO, because the industry is always changing. So it's not like you could say, I went to college, I learned it, and that's it. I'm done. I do the same things now. You always have to be reading and growing and asking questions. And you can't wait to be handed information or opportunities. Like, you have to go out there, get it for yourself, learn for yourself. You have to be very self-motivated, because if not, you're going to be a dinosaur in the industry. So like, I know I've spoken to people who have told me, oh, you do SEO? Yeah, years ago, I used to do that stuff, like throwing keywords on a page, right? And I would think to myself, yeah, but that's why you're not doing it anymore. And that's why you weren't successful, because you have to really be self-motivated to push yourself further in order to succeed in this industry. And I think that's true of anything in tech, really, because it's changing so quickly. You have to be very self-motivated to keep up and not become a dinosaur. I think my second thing would be teamwork. And that's something that I've definitely gotten better with over the years and working with different teams. I can't say necessarily I was the best at it from the start, to be very honest. I think my years of working in different office environments taught me that it's really important to build relationships with the people you're working with, even if they aren't your direct peers, like even if they aren't directly in your industry. You never know when those relationships can help you. And it's just a really good thing to be well-liked and have good relationships. You never want to be the one in the office who's like very obviously making sure to have a relationship with your supervisor or the person who you think is going to get you to the top. It's good to have good relationships with all of your coworkers and peers. And the last thing I would say is to really take initiative. Like, when you're working, wherever you are, you want to offer to take on new projects, see them through until the end. Doesn't mean stepping on other people's toes, but you want to really try to show that you could do more. You know, when people talk about how they're passed over for promotions, it's a very unfortunate thing. And sometimes, very often, obviously, it's nobody's fault. There are other circumstances. But I feel like a lot of that has to do with, are you the person that they can rely on to always say yes to a new project and see it through till the end? Or are you going to come to your supervisor, I hit a roadblock and now I'm stuck? You know, it's always okay to come to your supervisor and discuss something, but then you want to be that team member that they can rely on to find the solution.
All right, it's time for Fay's top 3. Fay, what are your top 3 experiences?
So top 3 experiences, I think, are things that pushed me out of my comfort zone. So the first would be that last year, my kids taught me how to ski, and that really was out of my comfort zone. And it was so awesome, like, to see my kids get such satisfaction out of the teaching process. Can't say I'm nearly as good as them, but that was just so great. My next one would be speaking. So public speaking, and also in like a meeting with heavy hitters, with influential people. It's the kind of thing that, you know, I didn't take public speaking courses, and I know that most universities offer that. So it's not something that necessarily comes naturally to me, but I really enjoyed, you know, when I was recently at a meeting and there were a lot of very influential people, and it was a great experience for me to see that if you have something smart to say and you could be concise and just get your point across and not be the loudest or longest person in the room, it really, you know, people respect that. As was right in the beginning of this conversation, I really enjoy stimulating conversation. That was definitely something that I enjoyed. And the last one I would say is also a personal kind of thing that pushed me out of my comfort zone, which would be when I was on vacation and I went snorkeling for the first time. That was also the kind of thing that like way pushed me out of my comfort zone, but it was awesome. And, you know, it's those experiences that really like show you. You push yourself and good things come out of it.
Yeah, those are all great. I'm just like envisioning you on the ski hill with your kids and you falling down and getting up. Like
They love talking about it.
Yeah, I can imagine with my own wife. I think, yeah, that's so cool. I love it. So before we wrap up, what are you currently working on? What's your next big project? What's the next big thing?
Number one is reporting. As I mentioned, it's something that's always a work in progress, but we're working now on like a much more sophisticated system of reporting. It's challenging because we're working with some older software that the company uses, and we have to like find workarounds. It's gratifying when things work because it's challenging. So number one is reporting because everything stems from that. I would say another big thing is, as I mentioned, we're working on redesigning all of our websites. So when that's done, that's going to be like a huge milestone. We're more than halfway there, which is really, really nice. And a big thing that's next up for us is using our current channels in a smarter way. So we're building out a new process for our Google Ads where we're currently using bid strategies and targeting, but now we're working on something that will make it smarter, where we're going to take the actual information about leases and feed it back, creating lookalike audiences, like getting a lot more sophisticated. And I'm excited because I feel like that will just really take us to the next level.
So where can listeners learn more about you and your business?
So our website is almost complete. That's hopefully going to be launching in the next week or two. So that's the main company website. But if anybody wants to get in touch with me directly, they're more than welcome. I can share my email address, and I'm always happy to discuss with anybody anything that comes up in the industry.
Super. Well, Faye, this has been such a delightful conversation. Like I said at the beginning, you are truly a mentor for a lot of people that I deal with, where someone can get involved in an industry, maybe not know exactly where they're going, but work hard and then get to the top of the peak. So thank you for being a mentor to so many. Really appreciate you being on the Digital Marketing Mentor. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into the Digital Marketing Mentor. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Mentor podcast. Be sure to check us out online at thedmmentor.com and at the DM Mentor on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more marketing mentor magic. See you next time.